So I've just finished the third of the Rider Hook books by, as the cover says, number 3 in a mind-spinning new series by Tully Zetford. Well, I know that Tully Zetford is actually a pseudonym for Kenneth Bulmer, but he wrote it as Tully Zetford. Who am I going to argue? Hook, Star City. I'm really enjoying them, but I think I probably need to take a break after this one because you can definitely have too much. So actually, let's start with the cover before I get into the book. Look at this classic pulp sci-fi cover. It continues on the back. It's marvelous. Now, the covers are so good that I actually figured out who the author is. It's on the back, which is unusual for the 70s books. Cover illustration, Peter Goodfellow. So if you Google Peter Goodfellow, he did a lot of illustrations for sci-fi books. Apparently Arthur C. Clarke, he did quite a few for initially. And if you look through that artwork, it's marvelous. This is not one of his best options, I think. If you look at this version of Rider Hook, that barrel-like torso, the arms that don't fit on it quite right, the bum, which is kind of square, and I wonder if the camera will cooperate to show you just how pathetic a hairline that is. It's like the worst wig in the world. This is like a 70s makeup for Planet of the Apes, ape heads or something. It's appalling. But Peter Goodfellow was actually a really good artist. He did many covers that were great, and in the 80s he went off to be a landscape artist, and his work's brilliant. So I guess the cover and the book kind of match, because this is very much pulp sci-fi. It's classic sci-fi, it's from the 70s, yes, but it's pulp. There's a lot of things that give it away. There's virtually no characters, let alone character development. Our main character, Rider Hook, is incredibly two-dimensional and stereotypical and misogynistic and misandrous. He is a he-man of action who can take out anyone and fire any gun and do any electronics, and he can do all these things without ever a crinkle of emotion shadowing the character or the writing. Now, this author is really good. I know he can write emotion, but he isn't. He isn't bothering to here. This seems to be very much formatted writing. There are things like the repetitious way in which he tells you how good Rider Hook is at everything and how much an individual man on his own in the galaxy he is. Another thing that I've come to realize is repetitious. Of the 3 books, Rider's hermaphrodite friend appears in 1 but is mentioned in all. I think Tully Zetford just really liked the pronoun game, because the hermaphrodite is referred to as Z instead of he or she. This is 1970s, mind you. That's pretty advanced. So in this story, no matter how much formatted, stereotypical they are, each story has unique factors. In this particular one, it's set. They don't continue on one after the other, by the way. There's obviously a gap in Rider Hook's experiences from one book to the next. In this one, he's coming in to land on a travelling city. Now, this is an interesting concept that I've read before, noticeably James Blesh, Cities in Flight, where the cities basically lifted their spin dizzies and left Earth. This particular city is called Stellopolis, and it's a travelling city that picked up and left when its planet was destroyed. It's also known throughout the galaxy as a destination for exotic luxury, and that ends up being hunting, which leads on to the plot. Another thing that is described in all of these books over and over again, but which I really like, is the concept of econorgs. So the idea is that in this galaxy of the future, where people are everywhere and aliens are everywhere and everything's populated, most people belong to an economic conglomerate or multi-system organization, member of no union. They form a union, and each person belongs to one. They have an imprinted credit card in their hand, and they live under the umbrella of this organization. This isn't a new concept. Other science fiction does it, often in more depth. This is just stated as the way things are here. It isn't really examined or explored to any great extent, which it could be and is in other books. Jennifer Government springs to mind. It's a cool concept, and though he really only gives a paragraph or two about it, and he does it in every book, it still manages to set the scene. So this incredibly pulpy book, actually, the writing is remarkably good. If you compare it with many young adult phenomena books that are so popular and everyone loves today, one in particular springs to mind, but they shall remain nameless, the writing in this is one hell of a lot better. It's obviously not much effort has been invested in it. The characters don't exist. Science is not a lot of it. But it is still a very well written book for what it is. Far, far better than many other books you could read. Now, I said there's not a lot of science in it. There isn't, really. But there is a rather interesting scene early on in the novel which describes a starship ploughing into the terminal where Riderhook is about to be paid for stolen goods. And the air is all sucked out of the terminal and there's a general collapse. The way that's described is actually pretty scientific and very interesting. There's an added bonus that in the previous book, Riderhook actually performed that maneuver with his starship. So there's a lot of repetition in these, but it often doesn't feel like repetition. You don't realize it's repetition until you look at it closely. Now in this one, hang on. Yes, okay, so in this one, Riderhook's on this Stellopolis, and he hooks up with a rich woman, which he has to do because he's lost his money. And they end up going in for an entertainment, which I don't reckon you could, if you're interested, you should read it, but it means emphasizing both with the hunter and the hunted, the killer and the killed at the same time. It's a weird sort of concept, and Riderhook doesn't much care for it. No modern person would either. It's cruel and horrific. And when you find out that these scenarios are based on reality that is done down on the actual planet, which the city is orbiting, it becomes worse. Now Riderhook goes down with one of these hunting parties that's due to kill off lots of these sentient creatures. Not quite animals, not quite people, but definitely sentient. And he gets a case of conscience, loses his temper, fires on the people who've taken him down, gets marooned on the planet, and organizes these possibly native but primitive tribal individuals to revenge themselves back on the starmen who come and shoot them for no reason that anyone can see. It's actually not at all a bad story. A lot of the concepts in it are excellent. If someone had taken the time to spend, H.B. Piper could have done a great job with this concept. Someone had have taken the time to actually expand on this and make it a real book instead of a quick throwaway, I need to be paid now type book. This could have been a truly marvellous one. Instead, it's just a very good one, but the pulpy aspects do come through. There's a whole heap of things. You keep being told how amazing and a loner and individual Riderhook is. Yawn. After a while, just yawn. There's a woman in it. By the third time we're informed that she's got fat legs, I'm thoroughly over it, and Kenneth Bulmer can take a hike. There's a writing tactic that I don't remember seeing extensively from other people, but the author writes these questions there. What is the meaning of the universe? Type questions. I don't know if they're meant to make Riderhook seem deep, or the author seem deep, or the book seem deep, but there's too many of them, and it's just plain annoying after a while. So we're told a lot how tough he is, and he does actually win in the end. It's a good book For a pulp, it's an excellent book, but I definitely need a break from pulpy things right now. I'd be fascinated to hear what anyone else who'd read Tully Zetford thinks of him, and I would be especially interested to hear from anyone else who's read other Kenneth Bulmer books, because there's no doubt that this author has got formidable writing talent, even if he isn't exercising it here, and I'd be really interested to hear what other books by the same author would be recommended. So that's the comment part of the YouTube algorithm. Also subscribe and click and like and all that sort of thing. Anyway, on to the next book.